In the middle of the night, a man named Hub Halloran arrived at a motel with a weapon. He tried to get into the room, and when the individual named Jab didn't open up, he devised a plan using bees to bring him out. Once he was done, he waited and positioned himself for them to run out, and once they did so, he began to attack Jeb. Unfortunately, when Hub was done and tried arresting Jeb, a man shot him from behind, using a short gun, before then slicing him open. The scene then shifts to Hub Halloran unconscious in an abandoned place, but just then, he begins to heal before then gaining consciousness. Immediately, he began calling for help and finally, he was able to break free. So quickly, he went to the mirror nearby to check out himself and was extremely shocked by what he had seen. Just as he was at it, Hub heard a voice approaching him, and when he opened the doors, Hub violently attacked him. Hub pointed his gun at him and requested for a cigarette. The young man informed Hub that he doesn't work for the Earl brother, but they ordered him to burn down the house for the insurance. The young man is shocked by the fact Hub is alive as he was supposed to be dead.
What the hell?
So Hub quickly handcuffed him and sealed his mouth shut before closing the car booth. Hub drove the vehicle to his house to fully examine all that had happened. He goes into his restroom to check every part of his body with injuries, but he is shocked to find none as they are all healed. So after a short while, Hub head to his mother home to ask for help in finding the Earl brothers. So while they discuss, their conversation leads to a man named Lucky Callahan, and just then we discover that Lucky was a retired mobster, and he had recently started dating Hub's ex-wife, which was the cause of conflict between the two men. The two of them believed that they knew what Marianne wanted, but neither of them ever bothered asking her about it. They kept fighting with each other since the day Marianne decided to be with Lucky, and their constant bickering became a headache for her. So Lucky used his contacts and hired a few guys to kill Hub, but that's when the unthinkable happened. After Hub figures this out, he goes back home to get all the tools and weapons needed, before then driving to a nightclub. Once he was in, he headed straight to find Lucky, which he soon did, but Lucky is extremely shocked that Hub is alive. Just as Hub tried to arrest Lucky, Hub's son named Cade arrived at the scene, even his wife named Marianne. Hub informed then that he got a warrant for Lucky, but he will do the arrest later. After which, Hub goes to meet his wife. He reveals to Marianne that Lucky tried slitting his throat, but she doesn't believe him as he is still alive and he doesn't have proof. She then asked Hub to sign some documents for her so she could take their son out of the country so he can be her stagehand as she got an audition in Nashville. After their conversation, Hub head back home, but on his way, he found their neighborhood pastor named Ron, but in a very strange form. Immediately, Ron began to approach Hub, but Hub drive his vehicle quickly to Lucky location. Before going after one of Lucky men, he's also shocked to see Hub. However, Hub uses him to get into the house before attacking those who killed him.
Oh, bitch! Oh, God! Ain't the one that got jumped taking a leak!
How much is Lucky paying you?
They informed him that Lucky isn't coming, but little did they know Hub had his plans figured out. He tied them up, but later the pastor arrived, so Hub asked them to make the pastor leave, before then going to hide. Just as he did so, the pastor came into the house and violently attacked them. While Hub watches from afar, although not for long as they are soon attacked by Pastor Ron. Hub quickly run out of the building in fear after witnessing such terrific scene. Hub got back home and heard a voice. When he went to check it out, he found his mom with a young lady. She informed him that she knows how he died and went to hell. They informed him that he is only standing here because they brought him back from the dead and he is only alive at least temporarily, plus he should think of this as a work release and she is his parole officer. She further informed Hub that he is still a bounty hunter, but now he hunt demons, the devil in quotes.
Oh, you're still a bounty hunter, but now you hunt demons for the devil.
The scene shifted to Pastor Ron preparing himself for an outing, and just then he was interrupted by the power supply, so he went to check it out. Quickly, he figured out something was wrong, so immediately he began to cast and band. As mysterious things began to happen, Pastor Ron transformed into what looked like a demonic entity. When the pastor gained consciousness, we couldn't recognize him. Back to Hub and the young lady from earlier named Midge, Hub rejected the offer, insisting that she was just a scammer. So she proceeded to want to make it official, but just then he accepted. Later in the day, she gave Hub a book containing all the information about defeating and killing demons. Hub was also warned that if he failed to process any demon assigned to him, he would be terminated, meaning he would be dead. Back to those who were killed the previous night, they were soon found by Lucky. He was shocked to find his men in the most despicable manner. Quickly, he drove out of the building in fear, but just as he left, he found Hub's vehicle and a voice screaming for help, so he quickly went to free Tommy, who in return informed him that it was Hub who killed his men. Kitty was mad at Hub for not doing in accordance with what Midge had instructed him regarding killing demons. After much pressure from her, Hub and his mom decided to dig deep on her pastor. Once they were done, she agreed to follow her son in getting her pastor. Hub went into the church to look for Pastor Ron, but after a short while, they both came across Pastor Ron's face. The two headed outside. It was now obvious to them that Midge was telling the truth about demons. Later, Hub went to give his ex-wife the signed document that allowed her to travel. Just then, Lucky arrived, and yet again, he was scared by Hub's presence. Meanwhile, Hub and his mom continued to find more research, and she was heartbroken that Hub was sent to hell, as it only proved that she was a bad mother, but Hub comforted her. After their emotional bond, Hub and his retired mom headed straight for business. So when they arrived at their location, the two headed into the building, and yet they found more mysterious things. Just then, Hub began to elevate, and Pastor Ron arrived to attack him. A battle ensued, and Hub was able to trap Ron, but not for long as he was too powerful. So just as he was about to finish Hub, his mother arrived to shoot Ron, giving Hub an opportunity to smash Pastor Ron's head before he then got consumed in fire. The two headed back home, unbeknownst to them that someone was watching.
The fact that Kayla and I've known each other since we were 5. She knows about my food issues.
The scene cuts to a young lady named Deirdre Donovan crying on camera over her friend Kayla, who has been spreading her personal information about weight loss. Just as she finishes, she receives a call, and we discover she was just faking it all. While on the call, she hears a noise and goes into her bathroom to check, thinking it was her friend named Dean. Unfortunately for her, she finds no one, so she just turns the shower off, but just as she leaves, every tap begins to spill water. In fear, she goes to the mirror and finds something mysterious. At that moment, she begins to levitate before getting drowned by the entity. Back to Hub, he received a call about a demon that he needs to take care of for good. Later on, Hub arrives to take his son Cade to school, which they are allowed to attend. While doing so, the two bond over family talk and their mom's musical career. Afterward, Hub tries to convince his son that Lucky isn't who they think he is, as he is a mobster. Cade informs his dad that he knows and is just glad his mom is happy with him. Just then, Hub receives a call from his mom, and he and Cade drive to the location where his mom told him about the demon. She informs him of all he needs to know about the demon and asks him to keep it out of the water. Once Hub arrives, he finds the whole place flooded, so he breaks into the home to figure out what's wrong. Meanwhile, Tommy gives Lucky the pictures he took last night, and just then, Lucky becomes very furious and tells Tommy he will have to take things from there. Hub calls his mom to inform her of what he witnessed, and it seems the water demon is gone. However, Cade seems to know who Deirdre Donovan is since she was famous in their school. Just as they drive, they find the whole town flooded with water. Hub enters a building and continues his investigation. Unfortunately, he finds a man who is drowned in the pool, and while he is shocked, Deirdre arrives and attacks Hub in an attempt to drown him too. Immediately, Hub struggles really hard before finally eliminating the young teenager. Just as Hub leaves, the town sheriff arrives, and Cade immediately calls his dad to inform him of that. Hub tells Cade to drive back home, then Hub calls the cop, reporting his son for driving recklessly so he can get the sheriff off his back. Meanwhile, Lucky goes to visit Kitty, and she threatens him with her shotgun. But before Lucky can leave, he drops the pictures he got as a message. Back to Cade, he gets bailed out of the station by his mom, and just at that moment, Hub arrives and Marianne is furious at him for not taking Cade to school. Marianne leaves in anger, and even Cade is angry about what his dad said to his mom in anger. The scene then cuts to 1 month ago, where we see Hub burying a body. The next day, we see an officer named Briggs collecting food from a small food business owner named Duke, and afterwards, he took all his money. Once Briggs was done, he went back to his car, and just then, the evil entity arrived. At first, nothing happened, but after a short while, the cop began to choke before something mysterious got into him. Which eventually led him to eliminate himself. After that, he gained consciousness with the demon now having total control of his body. Back to Hub, who is now invested in this demon hunting job, continuing to do his research on other demons. Later in the day, Hub goes to investigate, but first he asks Duke about the cop vehicle nearby. On the other hand, Lucky is still shocked about those pictures, so he decides to tell his wife about the findings, but just then he is informed that his car is on fire. Unbeknownst to him, it was all Kitty, Hub's mom, doing. She goes into his office to plant hard evidence on him. Just as she leaves, Marianne catches her, and she explains that she wasn't the one who set the car on fire. Later, Marianne heads into the store to find Hub, and it turns out that she still has a GPS tracker on Hub. But Hub isn't really in the mood for this conversation because there is a demon nearby. He quickly requests Marianne to leave, but just then she finds something on the floor, so she traces it, only for it to lead her to a dead man. Just as she screams, Hub arrives to take her out. So while they leave, Marianne finds Briggs, unknowingly to her that he is now possessed. Briggs begins to approach them in a bid to eliminate both, and a serious battle ensues with Hub struggling for his life. Marianne gets an axe and uses it on Briggs, but this wasn't enough, so Hub shoots him dead. Later, Marianne goes to wash her body, which was stained with blood. Meanwhile, Hub calls Midge to ask for information about the demon attacking humans, and while it kills its prey. However, Midge instead tells Hub not to call her again. Once their conversation is over, Hub explains to Marianne about the demon and how they attack. He also reveals to Marianne that he was once dead and was brought back to life from hell. However, Marianne realizes that Hub was actually telling the truth earlier regarding Lucky killing him. She is very sad about this discovery, so Hub goes to comfort her. Meanwhile, Lucky is later arrested by the cops over the evidence Kitty had planted earlier. Marianne later goes to speak with Lucky, and yet again he denies trying to kill Hub. He also tries to reveal Hub's secret, but Marianne informs him that she knows about them. Afterwards, Hub goes to apologize to his son for what he did to him earlier and also motivate him for his musical career as he is leaving with his mom. Later, the sheriff from earlier questions Hub about the death of Officer Briggs, as he was seeking to know where he was an hour before his death. Months later, we get to see a couple having private time for themselves, and just then a man arrived. Quickly, the young man named Malik requested that he be given some privacy. However, the other man isn't having it, as he violently hits Malik, and a serious battle ensues between them. At that moment, the evil entity appears, causing the vehicle tires to explode, leading to the deaths of both Malik and his opponent. Later, they both looked at her weirdly. The scene shifts, and we discover Lucky is now free from the cop. As usual, Hub is still busy with his research, and just then, he discovers something shocking. The scene cuts to 9 years ago, where we see Midge happily baking cookies, and it turns out to be a ceremony to celebrate her. Just then, she is informed that her baby isn't breathing. Midge made a series of calls to find solutions to help her child, even getting to the point of selling all her property. When she figures out the money isn't enough for the treatment, she proceeds to research selling her kidney. While she did so, she found an ad about selling souls, and just then her laptop began to fill in all the necessary information about her. Days later, some individuals arrive to help Midge's kid, but first, she needs to tell them how many souls she wants for them. After their discussion, she signs the documents, and then provides her thumbprint. Just then, everything begins to change around her as she can now see demons. Now in present day, we see Midge's son fully grown, and while they both have a mother-son moment, Hub arrives at her house. She goes to meet him with her gun, furious at Hub for coming to her house. Hub tells her that all this happening is simply just patterns, and just then she reveals to Hub that she collects signatures. Although she also informs him that she isn't interested in anything he has to say, and if he insists, she will send him back to hell herself. However, before Hub leaves, he drops everything he found behind before going into the woods where Malik was killed. Afterward, he drives back to find this demon. While he waits, he finds Malik carrying his girlfriend as she cries for help. Quickly, Hub begins to attack and shoot them using his sniper. Unfortunately for him, his car is slammed by the side by an oncoming vehicle. In a plot twist, it is revealed to be Lucky. After a few hours, Kitty arrived at the scene to find Hub, and she was shocked by what she had seen. In fear, she drove to the nearest stop, only to find the lady from earlier, Malik's girlfriend, already dead in the most diabolical manner. The scene shifted, and we saw Hub now in chains. While he tried to free himself, Lucky arrived with a hammer in a bid to torture and kill him. Lucky was mad that no matter what happened, Marianne always got to choose and believe Hub. Lucky is of the opinion that Hub is using some kind of voodoo on her. Hub tells him he just hunts demons and they are real, but Lucky isn't having any of that, as he proceeded to assault Hub. Later, he made a video for Marianne so she could watch him hurt Hub. He also confessed he tried killing Hub, but only after Hub attacked him. He also wanted Hub to confess that too, but mainly about Cheryl, the girl that Hub buried earlier. When Hub didn't reply, Lucky proceeded to torture him. The scene cuts to 1 month ago, where Hub went to a bar to have a drink, and Cheryl was the bartender. The two had a short conversation, but just then Lucky arrived, and the two discussed Marianne. Lucky also informed Hub that he was done with his past life of being a gang leader, plus Marianne had been helping him turn over a new leaf. However, during their conversation, things got tense as Hub hit Lucky in the face. Hub was beaten and thrown out of the bar. In order to get his revenge, Hub waited until it was very late at night. He then proceeded to carry his gun before heading back into the bar, where he found Lucky walking out, so Hub quickly shot him. When he tried to finish him off for good, unfortunately for Hub, it was just Cheryl putting on Lucky's hat. Immediately, Hub tried to help her, but sadly Cheryl gave up after bleeding profusely. Just as Hub was leaving, Lucky found him, so he went downstairs to check, only to find Cheryl's hat. Meanwhile, Marianne and her son continued to sing, and to be sincere, the two actually did well. Just then, the sheriff called Marianne to know her whereabouts, unbeknownst to Marianne that she was being questioned for their investigations. The cop felt that Marianne, Kitty, and Hub knew something about the deaths happening in their town. Meanwhile, just as Lucky tried to finish Hub off, he heard a sound, so he went to check it out. Unfortunately, it was the man from earlier who was possessed by the evil entity. Meanwhile, Hub managed to break free, but sadly Lucky was seriously attacked by the demonic entity. Hub went all out to attack them, killing one by using his shotgun, giving Lucky an opportunity to escape in fear. Hub then used his chainsaw on the other. Once he was done, he called his mom, who was in tears because she hadn't seen her son. Moments later, he went to meet his mom, who treated him well. Just as they did so, Marianne arrived with Cade to inform Hub that the sheriff called. Cade also wanted to know if demons were actually real, so in order for Hub to prove all this was true, he went to show them the dead entity he killed earlier. Days later, we see a young teenager playing, unaware that something was behind him, and just then he gets attacked. Meanwhile, just as Hub was cleaning up, he finds Lucky's phone, so he proceeds to destroy it. Later, Hub gets a call for work as there is a demon on the loose, so quickly they all begin to conduct research on this particular kind of demon. Just then, Midge arrived and she is shocked that Hub's family is now all it. However, she begins to explain to Hub who these demons are. She believes that the Shackled Seven were once angels until they joined Lucifer's rebellion against God, which didn't go well. They are just former angels trying to burst out of hell. To avoid wasting any more time, Hub prepares to leave for the demon's location with his family. But Midge is shocked by this, as the demon they are after is a Pyralis. Although this doesn't stop them, as they all proceed with it. Once they arrive at their location, they all visit every home, warning them of a gas leak. However, just then a man blasts them with a shotgun, making them run for their lives. Later, Hub goes in to zap the man, and just as Midge enters one of the houses to retrieve the boy from earlier, she realizes that he has been possessed. Immediately, the ground begins to open, swallowing everything in its path before creating a sharp triangle on the ground. The family heads back home, but unfortunately, Midge is presumed dead. After a long night, Hub and Marianne kiss before they become romantically involved. Meanwhile, Lucky goes to the sheriff to report and expose Hub using the photos from earlier. That night, Hub gets a call, so he goes to check, and it is yet another demon. It is unclear what this means, but the address on the screen shows his workshop. Immediately, Hub goes into the woods to check, and it turns out Cheryl is now out of her grave. The scene takes us back to last night when Cheryl arrives to find Hub and Marianne together before storming off to a trailer. The next morning, Hub wakes up and just then, Marianne approaches him. At that moment, Hub finally reveals to Marianne that the grave behind him is Cheryl's. He explains all that happened that night, as he was just drunk, which broke her heart. The whole family held a meeting, and they are mad at him because Cheryl's parents are still searching for their daughter. However, in a plot twist, Midge is still alive. She tells him that they want them to finish the job. Later, Cheryl arrives at a nearby bar, and everyone is shocked that she is still alive. Meanwhile, Midge narrates to Hub that the demon controlling Cheryl is one that loves music and has the power to control anyone's mind into doing things. Just then, we get a glimpse of what the demon can do, as it made every man at the bar kill themselves. Meanwhile, at Kitty's home, the cops arrive to arrest Hub and his mom, but unfortunately for Kitty, she gets arrested. However, they don't believe Lucky until he shows them Hub's investigation on the wall. Back to Hub, in order to bring the demon closer to him, he plans on using the speakers to play very loud music. After everything is set, Hub plays the music loudly, and just then, Cheryl is alerted by this. Those who were under her spell also get freed and are traumatized by what they saw. The cops are quickly informed about the deaths, stating it was Cheryl's doing and not Hub's. Back to Hub, the demon arrives but refuses to step into the line that Hub made earlier. When she finds Hub, she quickly begins to fight, and after a while, Midge activates the trap, catching Cheryl in it. She begins to use her mind control powers on Hub by asking him to break the seal, and in return, she would bring Cheryl to life and save Hub from going back to hell, before then possessing a bird. After hearing this, Hub takes her offer, and this, in return, brings Cheryl back to life.
There's always a loophole.
Huh?
Everything's gonna be okay.
Later on, Hub and Cheryl head straight into the bar to meet Marianne. They are surprised that Cheryl is still alive, and unfortunately, Hub is arrested. When Marianne goes in to cry, the possessed bird arrives to possess her. At that moment, Lucky gets into the room to speak, but unfortunately, he is killed. Later on, Marianne arrives to sing, and while she does so, every man in the bar covers their mouths except Hub. Before then informing Hub that the devil never stops coming, she requests that he serve it if he wants Marianne to leave.
The devil will never stop coming up. Serve me.
The season 1 of Bondsman then came to an end. Kindly subscribe for more horror recap like this. Thanks for watching and goodbye.